What's up, it's Nez, and hello everyone, welcome back to The Letter. We're picking up right where we left off, now here in Ashton's chapter. Apparently back at the housewarming party. Parties have never been really my thing. They're always such a hassle and take so much time off my day. Prior plans and commitments cancelled, all for the sake of playing along with others.
Welcome everyone.
Hello there, our blonde waifu. I hated them even as a child.
Please, make yourselves at home.
But mom often insisted. She'd slick my hair back, put me in one of those stuffy dinner jackets, and if there were any children around, urge me to make friends. Never mind how utterly loud or tedious it was all for the sake of keeping up appearances. To some extent, lies have already surrounded me, long before I've chosen what I wanted to do with my life. Luckily, there were always ways to tune everything out, and much to my mom's frustration, I always managed to sneak in my CD player along. I kept to myself and to my music, had my little own world. Until I learned to observe. It's a simple matter of awareness, really. And for someone with keen eyes, a skewed necktie or a simple flick of the wrist alone could tell volumes about a person. I still don't like parties. Especially ones as big and fancy as the Wright's housewarming. However, when there's an actual reason to go to them, I figure they're not too bad.
Be careful with Shirley, alright?
You're still a fucking edgelord though. Besides, like it or not, it's all part of a job. I'm here on a mission. One that has the name Luke Wright plastered all over it. You'd think the man would want to remain inconspicuous after his name was linked to several high-profile crimes across Luxbourne. Granted, most have gone cold over the years, having stagnated without any lead or evidence, but that still doesn't make him any less of a suspect. Yet here he is, throwing a party in his own fucking backyard. Although having observed the man this past year, I'm not even shocked. He craves it, the damn spotlight, constantly yearns for attention like a neglected puppy. It doesn't take a genius to figure out why he's nowhere to be found in his party. But that's not the problem here. What pisses me off is how far his reach extends, how close he has creeped into the lives of the people I care about. Again, like a stubborn itch you couldn't get rid of. First, Professor Clark, then there's Isabella. I also spotted Z-Man here a while ago, and now there's also Rebecca.
Can't you at least act with a bit more shame?
See, you have to listen to Becca, you fucking edgelord. Why does anyone actually like your character? You're a cross between a Tokyo Ghoul and Twilight fanfic.
Becca, if I find a single scratch on Shirley, there will be hell to pay.
There will be hell to pay if he so much as harms a hair on either Zach's or Rebecca's heads. Worrying about Isabella's brief dealings with him is stressing in itself already. I doubt he'll attempt anything in front of other people though. It would tarnish his glorious reputation, and he values appearances more than anything. That doesn't necessarily mean he isn't incapable of it, or then, in fact, and on the off chance that he does something, I wouldn't be responsible for my actions.
Those guys know what they're doing. They're handling cars worth more than your precious Shirley.
For Zachary's and Rebecca's sakes, however, I really hope this will simply be another housewarming party. Even though something tells me it's anything but. Call it a detective's intuition or whatever. When Luke Wright's involved, nothing good has ever come of it. I can't let my guard down here. Even more so when a familiar car slows to a stop and out comes...
Chief?
Hello, Lee. My presence here might be odd at best, but I have an excuse. One that this man handed me myself a year ago, along with a heavy dose of flattery for the newly promoted detective inspector. Can't exactly say the same for my good old boss, can I? Although to see him here chatting it up with Luxbourne's rich and famous isn't such a big surprise in itself, no disrespect meant, but the guy is obviously a social climber. What is surprising is the fact that he seems all too eager to mingle with a person of interest's wife. Just what the hell is he doing here?
Ashton, what's...
Sorry, Becca, I just saw someone I need to catch up with. Longtime friend.
What the shit is going on here?
Oh wait, Ash, what about...
And there we go, leaving Becca.
This won't be long. Be careful while I'm gone, okay?
Hey, be careful! About what exact...
I don't want to draw attention to myself either, at least not until he's given me proper reason to spoil his little party.
Thank you for the invite, Anna. Husband still missing, I see.
I should be saying the same of your darling Rochelle, Lee.
Oh, they're just meeting in the garden.
The doctors again.
For now, the best I can do is wait and remain inconspicuous, especially with the chief here, whose motives are dubious at best. If it means having to pretend I don't know Zach or Rebecca, or forcing myself to rub elbows with people I barely know, let alone like, then so be it. I can't involve anyone. Wandering is out of the question as well when there are guards and civvies stationed here and there. Sure, getting past them is something I could do with ease, but I'd rather not right now when I'm the one of the few snooping and roaming about. It'd be best to try and do so once there's a crowd of people. And if their interior designer's drunken claims are to be believed...
Yes, well, what about Luke?
That reminds me, Marianne is still stuck in the dungeon.
Should we file a missing persons report now, or do you want to wait 24 hours?
He's around.
Probably.
You know, I can tell if someone's bluffing.
It'll all come down to how well I'll play my cards tonight. With a good hand, this party is going to give me the breakthrough I need to crack Luke right, or something to prove my suspicions wrong. Maybe find out what kind of game my boss is also playing. I've had an inkling before, a few hunches tempered down by how much of a bumbling fool the man appears. But one does not simply deal with the rights and get invited to a party they host without wanting anything from either of the two. Or it's the other way around. So with a last wary glance at the two, I head to the ballroom. I just hope this will not complicate things further. Shit. By the time the party's in full swing, night has fallen, yet there still isn't a Luke right in sight. The man can be quite ostentatious, but this, frankly, I'm impressed. I don't even know how many huzz I can't pronounce that I've already stuffed my face with. One too many, probably. The server's already giving me a stink eye every time I saunter over to the buffet table. Blame your employer, not me. He's the one who has the guts to show up late. Besides, most of the guests' idle talk is concentrated in this area. Despite standing in the same roof with the very people they're whispering about, some just couldn't resist. I might as well keep an ear out for any useful info.
Is Suarez still fixing that tech problem?
Tech problem.
It's been 3 years. Sooner or later, the Blighter will put 2 and 2 together.
He might have already.
If the red tape I'm being slammed with these past few months suggests anything, that or someone has been pulling the strings. I wouldn't be shocked. This case would not have gone this long if Scumbag didn't have a mule or some kind in force.
Shush you, we all know Suarez just wants an out.
I knew he was bad news the day the merger with Evans Incorporated happened. Fair.
Glad I did not have to deal with that. But keep it down, someone might hear. The wife especially.
This kind of negligence has always been an advantage, but sometimes I wish I could be smash drunk while doing this. Having sharp ears also means you get to hear the most unsavory things. Who cheated on who this week? One person's motives for bashing someone's skull against a wall, or a father's excuse for burning his own daughter alive, those sort of stuff. After a few years it gets tiring, you get desensitized to it. But humans could also be downright awful. Sometimes there isn't simply enough brain bleach in the world. Sadly, the wine is a no-go tonight and mostly for show. I'm up for another drive later for one, and I definitely want to be sober in case anything comes up. And something always comes up in assignments like this. A detective inspector dying of cardiac arrest, for example. Because I can feel the moment my heart grinds to a halt the second I shift my eyes to the corner of the ballroom.
Hannah Wright.
Some will say I'm acting a touch bit paranoid, and maybe I am. This is a party and she's the hostess. It goes to say that she'd take time to mingle with the guests. But Hannah Wright Nee Evans isn't without her fair share of accolades. At least to the public, she doesn't seem like it. Unlike her husband, she's the one with the business sense, not to mention the impressive track record needed to manage a company. Or effective hide whatever irregularity there might be. She's clean, as far as my agents and I have found out, but it doesn't rule out a possible involvement with whatever her husband's up to. Hell, Luke Wright came out clean in previous reports until I bothered to take a deeper look into it. What I've found may not be sufficient to bring anyone to trial yet, but it's enough to nurture suspicion. This may be a bit of an overreaction, but no one lasts long in my line of work by being careless.
You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you?
Didn't realize the housewarming was going to be this fancy. I would have gone with a nice dress if I knew.
Nothing to be worried about then. He's probably even more careful with appearances than her husband, having grown up with the spotlight focused on her. Yet, even knowing that, the anxiety stays, has been here since the party started. I've brushed it off earlier, who wouldn't feel edgy, right? You always feel fucking edgy! I've gone undercover in the party hosted by the very person I'm investigating. That in itself is risky and has plenty rooms for error. Usually though, the tension passes the first half hour or so. I've been trained to remain composed in situations like this. However, with each passing second I spend here, it only grows heavier and seeks to overwhelm. An odd feeling that someone is watching me instead. It's been like this since last week, but I should already be used to this. Ash, yeah, the ghost is watching you. People would be looking at me no matter how small or big of a blip I am on their radar. That's what they do in these things. But when the feeling of eyes burning into my back lingers longer than necessary, I've been looking around every now and then to catch the culprit. No luck. And despite my efforts to push the sensation as far down as I could, tiny pinpricks continue to sting the back of my head, and the ghost of a cold touch creeps up to my limbs. Until my gaze switches back to Rebecca and Hannah Wright. Oh, he saw it! She stands there, dark-haired and dirty, sticking out like a sore thumb. Even so, no one seems to notice. Although she's looking away from me, her mere existence here strikes. Disturbs. A sense of tunnel vision binds while I stand stock still and gape at her, like my life depends on making sure she stays where she is. I feel trapped in her presence, until another guest bumps into me, yanking me out of my stupor. Only then do I realize that I've been holding my breath. Before I could figure out what happened, she's gone. A quick scan of the room yields no sign of her. The party continues as if nothing's amiss. I'm not really one to judge, but I'm sure someone like that would never have been allowed in a fancy thing like this. What has the security been doing? There should have been an outcry by now, particularly from the host. She's standing almost an arm's length away from the woman, and yet she simply continues her talk with Rebecca.
Oh, the professor! And your little Becky!
My parents couldn't make it since they're in Scotland right now. And Mom says hi, by the way.
Is there? Is there something in the food then? That I'm starting to see things? It couldn't have been the wine though. I'm every bit as sober as when I've stepped out of my car. Whatever that is. But why would anyone want to do that? Why would Luke Wright want to do that? He's fishy, but I couldn't see why he'd ever think it's a good idea to lace the food he'd serve in his party with someone like Chief Lee on his guest list to boot. He's been linked to narcotics trade, yep, however that kind of tactic is below him, that much I can tell. Unless there's a mass murder waiting to happen here tonight, which I highly doubt. So...
What the fuck was that?
yeah, Ash, you're starting to see the truth. But there's no time to look deeper into this, even if I want to. Not when a telling silence comes from the room and draws everyone's attention to the main doors of the ballroom.
About damn time.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Enjoying the party? I hope I'm not too late in welcoming you all to the Wright Mansion.
I've been tailing this guy for a while now. Before that, I heard stories from previous officers who tackled this case, none of which are pleasant. Mind, I'm not counting the incident with Professor Clark, yet pleasant is glossing over the gravity of it. While Wright's good at covering whatever shady stuff he's doing, he's shown to be a really rotten guy. At least that's the case when he thinks none of his peers are around to judge him. I've lost track of how many counts of verbal abuse and harassment cases this guy could have been pinned with. Fuck, he even tried to make a move on Isabella back in the open house, right in front of his wife. Standing in the same room as him doesn't make me want to punch him any less. Actually, the urge is stronger, but protocols, my case first and foremost, my own opinion of the man shouldn't get ahead of my purpose here. If I want to put him in his place, it should be in court, with all the proper charges filed against him. And I'll only be able to do that once I gather enough evidence to pin this bastard down.
Welcome one and all to our humble abode. Tonight, if you have yet to find yourself in your roles, you are all ladies and lords of the court of your king and queen, if you would excuse my presumptuousness. So, enjoy the feast that has been laid out for your senses as we only allowed the best to be served. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone!
Suppressing my annoyance, I prepare to step away from the crowd. Amidst the cheers and claps, now is a good time as any to move. Try to find that something the Makala woman talked about. In the first place, I have no plans to actually shake hands with Slimeball himself. A fake smile is plastered on my face while I pretend to listen to one of the other guests gossiping about him. All while slowly inching out of the ballroom. Unfortunately, before I could get any further...
Are you feeling ill, Rochelle? Perhaps you need to sit down and...
Rich people only have two ways to resolve their mess. Either they quietly deal with it behind closed doors, or they create an even greater problem out of it, and it blows up in everyone's faces one way or another. Fun.
No! Shut it, you monster! I ain't talking to you! I'm talking to this scumbag over here! You bloody bastard standing there with your smarmy smile!
Not even a few seconds in and this is already proving itself to be a big public spectacle. Why spend money on television to buy daytime soap operas? You could just go to one of these parties and see the action unfold in real life. You get free food too. Really, if I were an actual guest, I'd just take this as some sordid form of amusement.
Watch your tongue! You're on thin ice, Rochelle. Where's your husband? Who even invited you?
But I'm not a guest who's here for a good time. I need to focus on him, even through this whole sorry tale. So I wait, I listen, I observe. Interesting, isn't it, though? That's the Chief Inspector's wife. Well, that night is over. It's now Saturday, and we stayed over at Rebecca's place. The morning after starts off quiet. Even the whole Salemwell residences seem unusually still. The open hallway when I step out is devoid of tenants. No sounds coming from the other units either. It's almost as if something's brewing on the horizon. A peaceful night's sleep still does wonders for the mood though. I can't even remember the last time I've slept without anything urgent interrupting. It's a nice break from all the bad news lately. If it wasn't for the insistent buzzing in my pocket waking me up, I'd sleep in. The ringing has stopped before I could move somewhere private, but sleep has also been effectively kicked out of my system by then. Pity, I could use a little more rest until I have to face the other storm. Of course, I owe Rebecca an explanation. It doesn't matter if it's the whole truth or another hastily spun tale. Although I haven't really figured out how to go about this yet. Unlike Zach and Isabella, who don't usually ask questions and are content with what little I can share, Rebecca's rather quick on the trigger. It will have to be set aside for later, though. The Chief's name stares back at me almost as if it's mocking me. And that fucking stupid ringtone. Sad. It would have been nice to just chill after last night or maybe half listen to the news. Sure, it's the same thing we've been hearing lately. Still beats standing outside in the chilly Luxborn morning on the phone with my boss. Sighing, I answer it, if only to get this over with.
Ray, where are you right now?
I'm somewhere. Now that's a tone I didn't expect him at this hour. Just thinking about how this'll go already gives me a headache. Immediately I reach up and pinch the bridge of my nose to stave it off.
This is why I won't ever drink myself senseless.
What was that?
Nothing, Chief. A pleasant morning to you too.
He's probably calling to rag on me or complain about his wife, which is really none of my business unless it affects my case. It seems like the usual rich man cheats on wife deal. Although I wouldn't have followed up on it if it were somebody else's wife. But figuring it's the Chief's, hey, I trust him to come clean if the missus is related to the Rice's shady dealings. This is why I left before they hauled the woman out last night. I'm not going to go around investigating cheating husbands and wives when it's probably just that. Chief appears to have a different idea in mind though.
There's nothing pleasant in the morning. Anyway, where are you? I told you millions of times before to keep your lines open.
He did, and not only him. Zach, Rebecca, Isabella, all of them have said the same thing numerous times in the past. But I was undercover last night. A phone call is the last thing I want to happen, when there are other things I need to focus on at that time. Besides, we have radios and work-issued phones. Why isn't he using one of those channels if this is urgent?
Just woke up, sir. As awesome as it is to hear your voice this morning, it really is early. If you could give me a few minutes just to wake myself up, that'd be swell.
No need for that. This won't take long.
Is something wrong? Am I needed at the precinct ASAP?
Oh no, everything's good over there. Just look, kid. Pray. Don't take this personally, alright?
Are you fucking taking us off the case?
You're off the Luxborn firm case. Start today.
Oh my, when you look at that, another cliche predicted. Well, I did not expect to hear that either. This must be some kind of cosmic joke. I allow some awkward seconds to pass. Chief must be pulling another one of his awful pranks. Out of his bad mood or a severe hangover, maybe. Everyone knows that when given the chance, he exercises no control with his drinking. If it wasn't for his wife causing a stir, he'd probably be trash an hour in at the party. He likely drank more after they threw her out of the ballroom. Besides, his sense of humor has never been good. It's just infuriating most of the time. But when he doesn't follow it up. If I sound a tiny bit frustrated speaking to my own superior, I'm not one to blame.
Wait, no. What? Are you kidding, Chief? Is this one of your practical jokes again? The temps won't say anything about it, but
It's not that. They're orders. From the higher-ups.
Someone's definitely pulling the strings. Ah, the higher-ups. Yes, my favorite word. Since when did the higher-ups ever cared about what the Criminal Investigation Department did? As far as I could tell, they don't give a hoot if CID is filled with cold cases, as long as we keep the spending low. When I need to view those old case files though, they're locked away in the archives. You're gonna have to check with the higher-ups. I need access to these reports, see if the higher-ups would allow it. Every step, every move. In this case, there isn't one that hasn't been gated by some authority. If it's not the chief, it's the commissioner, or so they always tell me. It makes one wonder why they even bothered assigning anyone to it. Not a single one of them has done anything to help move the case. And they wonder why it's taken this long for even a hint of progress to show.
You can't just drop this on me. You can't just take me off like that.
Yes, I can. And I'm sorry, Ashton. You're a good detective. One of the best I've seen in years, but...
3 years, Chief. 3 years!
3 years since that anonymous tech leak blew up. Since Luke Wright's name was openly linked to several nasty dealings within Luxbor's corporate world, some of them involving deaths. 3 years and I was the only one who made it this far. Made much progress that officers with more experience weren't able to do when they handled this case. Just within a year and with barely any help from the damn brass at that? Of course I'll be pissed.
Do you know what would have happened if I didn't work my ass off on this thing? If I didn't dedicate a whole year of my time on it? It would have gone cold, like every fucking case Luke Wright has been linked to. I saved this from getting thrown into the archives, sir. I'm getting close. If you could just...
I'm fully aware of what you've done, Frey, but the Commissioner hasn't been happy with your progress.
Why is that?
Still too slow by their standards.
Too slow is better than not fucking at all.
Too slow? Well, what about those reports I filed? I've documented every freaking thing for them. I've given you every important lead I can gather. Isn't that enough?
They need results, not a bunch of research papers. Not one baseless assumption after another. Concrete proof, Frey. I'm really sorry. They've already made a decision. They're going to pass this on to someone who's been in the force longer. Someone who has more experience.
Someone who has more experience?
They meant nothing by it, but you're still too young to work on a case this big.
Chief, I've already done more than what those old farts ever did behind their desks. All of it, within just a year of being assigned to this.
Watch your language, Frey. Those are your superiors,
I'm not some damn rookie fresh out of training. I'm as qualified as they are.
Futile, I know it is. They'd never say it within my earshot, but from the very minute I stepped in their precinct, the lot of them had underestimated me, from their stares alone to the assignments I get. To them, I'm still just a kid. Too young, too green, too inexperienced. And once they pull that card on me, every argument I have gets thrown out the window. No matter how logical it is, how much I've accomplished, what my record says, or the amount of work I've put in every investigation they've thrown my way.
We're all aware of your skills, kid. You wouldn't have that badge and rank if you weren't good enough. However, this case is just not for you. Too high profile, too risky to put a good officer like you in harm's way.
Can he even fucking hear himself? That reasoning is odd in itself. No one joins this line of work without knowing the dangers of it.
Don't I get a second chance? You said it yourself. I'm a good detective. It'll just be a matter of time before we can close this.
It doesn't matter what I think, Frey. You're off the case, and that's final. I expect all related files and documents on my desk by Monday morning. And don't even try to go touch anything. I know how hard-headed and determined you are.
Chief, please. A few more weeks. I'll have the proper evidence left on your desk by then. I swear it won't take longer than that.
Fred, it's too late, boy. I've already informed the other officers. You aren't to be allowed access until you've been given a new assignment. Hell, just keep out of the precinct, Fred. Take the weekend off.
Seriously, Chief, is this about last night? If this is about me being at that party, I have a good reason for...
You were at the party.
Oh. It makes me pause. His wary tone, the sudden careful note in his voice. Slowly a frown forms in my face, my eyebrows knitting together in confusion. Much as I hate to say this about my own boss, there's also suspicion in it. Hard not to think of it that way, seeing how he acted around Hannah Wright last night. Is he worried? Why should he be? Everyone who knows anyone was invited. I didn't doubt for a second why he received an invite, even if his presence was questionable. There's something wrong, and I've unintentionally walked into it. All I have is a sneaking suspicion, but when one looks at this from a different angle, put everything together. Why the hell I've been taken off the case might be the same reason he was there in the first place. Fuck.
Yes, Chief, I was. For a good reason. A friend invited me to go with her. What were you doing there? I know we don't have a strict rule against attending functions, but that was...
He coughs and it almost sounds like he's choking on his own. Excuses? Lies? I don't want to accuse him of anything yet. He's someone I've respected since I joined the LPD, even with his bizarre sense of humor and tendency to procrastinate. He's obviously competent enough to get the job done. He wouldn't be the chief inspector of Luxborn Police if he wasn't. He wouldn't last years in service without some track record backing him. Unless that too is a fluke, And what's backing him is not something, but someone. Oh. Oh shit. Fucking hell. Fucking shit.
Chief Harvey, about last night with the...
Why does it matter, Frey? This isn't about that.
Why does it matter? Why does it matter? I'll recite the whole damn oath we've taken upon being sworn into service if I can, but at this point, it seems too late to remind him of that. He's probably already moved on from serving and protecting people to serving and protecting his own interests. Damn it. I've suspected the upper brass of this, even the lower ranked subordinates in the force, but from my own boss? Shit, no wonder that leak didn't lead anywhere. Someone closer might have been pulling the strings. I might have been set up to fail long before the fucking case has been assigned to me. But I don't want to just give this up. I don't want to believe I've wasted an entire year for this. I don't want this to be the kind of news to tell Professor Clark after all those promises I've given the man.
I just want to know, sir, at the party, with Luke and Hannah Wright, you were...
Monday, Detective Inspector. First thing in the morning. Every copy of the files you have, I want to see it all on my table, understood?
Nice job deflecting the question, Chief.
This isn't...
Frey, am I understood?
What else can I do other than smile and nod? With my own superior expecting an answer using that tone, brushing off my questions as easy as discarding a dead body?
Yes. Yes, sir.
He cuts the line as soon as the words are out. You're off the case, Frey, just like that. Funny why this still caught me off guard. I've discovered years ago how different the actual thing is, how far from reality everything I believed in as a dreamy-eyed kid. There are no high-speed pursuits every day, no thrilling gunfights or exciting cases every step of the way. Only paperwork, lots of red tape, and dealing with the politics and bureaucracy. I've set out to change things, hoping it'll make things better for the people I care about. It ended up changing me instead. Serves me right for being too idealistic, I guess. This is probably the universe telling me that it's better to remain the skeptic I really am. Now here I am, standing useless, can't even do anything but grit my teeth and kick the wall. The bastard didn't even acknowledge my response.
What did the poor wall ever do to you?
It figures Rebecca would be the one to find me in this embarrassing state. Honestly, I don't like it when she sees me like this, which seems to happen a lot regardless of what I want.
Rebecca, now's not a good time.
The concern I expect from her when I turn isn't there, however. Instead, she just looks, well... The storm I left brewing last night, yep, it's there right on her face, ready to be unleashed.
When is it ever a good time for you? You're always so busy with everything now. Now I find you here, sneaking out without even bothering with a proper goodbye. Not even a word. Really, I'm starting to think you're just keeping me around for my couch and my cooking.
Becca, it's not what you're thinking. I wasn't planning on sneaking out. I was going to say goodbye. I just had to take this call. Although I'm not gonna lie, couch is great. 10 out of 10, would sleep again.
Stop it with the jokes, Ashton. I'm not in the mood.
Her bitterness is not lost on me, but at this point of our friendship, ooh, that word, friendship, in our lives, how does she still expect me to answer that? What am I supposed to tell her now?
Are you still mad about last night?
She merely raises an eyebrow at me, which to be honest is all the response I need. Seeing her like this makes me believe those things Z-Man says, the part where Rebecca scares him sometimes. I've certainly seen this more than once already. But the familiarity of it doesn't take away from the downhill turn this conversation's starting to take. Only an awkward cough serves as a way to stall.
Okay, of course you're still mad. But whatever happened last night, I really am sorry. I'll apologize as many times as you want. If you want, I'd even kneel or something.
Ashton, an apology is nice and all, but that's not what I wanted to hear from you today.
Alright, fine, okay. Where do you want to start?
Oh, I don't know. I've honestly lost track of it by your third trip to the buffet table.
I wasn't... The drive up there took a bit. Can you blame me if I wanted to grab some appetizers?
Oh, come on, Ash! For the whole evening? For the whole party?
Yeah, she's fucking pissed, Ash. You should have been more transparent with her.
Please don't tell me that's all you did, because I've never known you as someone who pigs out. You even took great lengths to avoid me. Should I also mention how you ignored Zach? Sometimes I get the feeling you don't want to be seen with us in public. Some friendship, huh?
You know it's not like that. It's never going to be like that, Becca. I was...
Maybe you even just used me to get into the party. You said yes to being my +1, But you were rather excited to just peel yourself off, weren't you? Honestly, I'm feeling a bit used.
I couldn't even look her in the eye. It wasn't that I lied to her, I honestly wanted to be there, to keep Zach safe and to keep Rebecca safe. Just in case. Client or family friend, it was still a party hosted by a person of interest, by a man accused years ago of murdering a person's wife to get what he wanted. But then Chief showed up, Hannah Wright happened, and Luke Wright just couldn't be bothered to die peacefully somewhere. All of a sudden, none of my original reasons mattered. If I was found out right then and there, hell, if Zach and Rebecca's connection with me was found out, who knows what might have happened. But Rebecca doesn't understand that, doesn't understand what I can or can't say to keep them from harm. It's all in her eyes, in the tight line of her lips and her furrowed brows. The hurt.
I'll ask this again. Just what were you up to during the party? What were you doing that you couldn't even take 2 seconds to make time for your friends?
This day is just off to a wonderful start. First my case, now Rebecca. How do I even go about this? Should we stretch the truth or insist that it's confidential? You either just tell her the whole truth or you don't tell her at all, Ash, and it doesn't feel right to just outright lie to her right now. Let's not tell her anything.
Rebecca.
I wonder how many times I've told her that. And not just her, my dad, my mom, Zach, and even Isabella. How many times have I told them what essentially boiled down to mind your own business, to make sure they're all safe, to keep them out of danger? My job is in the game. It isn't as glamorous as the television portrays it to be. I had thought so too as a child. I was so clueless back then, wasn't I? But boy did I learn. The good guys don't always win. Justice isn't always served. Investigation is not looking at a crime scene once to get a eureka moment. It's sleepless nights at the crime lab with the tech guys. It's several days wearing the same clothes with Chinese stakeout stains because I'm staking out a place. It's frustration when bureaucracy hinders you from looking into a case any further, or when you know the suspect is guilty but they get away scot-free on a technicality. It's seeing anger and pain and despair with every case.
I know you have a mountain of questions, but I've told you this so many times before. I can't say much more than that.
Still, the look on Rebecca's face, the resentment and the pain, it hurts me as well, to think that I'm the cause of that. It's a familiar one too, something I've seen a lot over the years. I wonder how long it'll take before Zach starts giving me the same one. Or until I've hurt Isabella in a way that any sincere apology won't ever be enough. What a mess. I'm a mess, and it's the people close to me who have to suffer for it.
Official police business, huh? So you did use me?
Yes, we did. Used. The way she utters it just makes me feel like a total scumbag because you fucking were. It's not like I did it all on purpose. But I can't just hold someone else responsible for this, right? Who am I to blame? The chief? Hannah Wright? Luke Wright? Doing so feels like cowardice. It doesn't change the fact that I'm the one who put us in this situation. No, that was Isabella in the letter. I couldn't even look at her anymore with this guilt eating me up inside. But then she laughs. Half-hearted with barely a hint of cheer in it, but it's a laugh nevertheless. I honestly don't know what to make of that, what to do with myself upon hearing it. It's almost like the mere sound of it is meant to pierce.
The least you could have done is tell me. Maybe I could have helped. Kept an ear and an eye out for you. I don't know. I could have been Irene Adler, maybe?
Her smile doesn't quite reach her ears, but the mask, she tries so hard for me. I give her a smile of my own, though I imagine it comes off as unenthusiastic as hers. It's far easier to slip back to banter when it's like this, to brush off everything. At least this way we wouldn't have to deal with awful things.
The woman? Don't flatter yourself. Nancy Blue, more like.
Her sidekick would beg to differ, Ashette.
I couldn't stop a wry grin from forming in my lips. She probably still has that photo from the contest, keeps it in her old diary. I never did find either of the two after I threatened to burn them. In the end, I just never brought it up again, hoping she'd just forget about the whole thing. But the small smile on her face says a lot. Those were good times. A lot simpler, a lot more peaceful. Now things have changed. We're no longer the same people we were as kids. Growing up together doesn't mean it always has to be just the two of us in the first place. It's a dumb notion to believe in, but nothing ever remains constant. Things will inevitably change through the years. In fact, it already has, long ago. Not just with the people we allowed in our respective lives, but also with us, as people, as friends. It really does get complicated as we get older, doesn't it? Not everything has to be, though. Even if it's in the form of a promise I have no idea when I'll be able to fulfill.
I swear, I'll explain when it's all over.
The silence afterwards brings an even heavier air between us. Something that Rebecca thankfully doesn't allow to linger more than necessary.
I suppose you have to go now, huh?
The situation's already awkward as it is. Dragging this out will only make it more, what? Difficult? Messed up? As if it isn't already.
Back to your case again?
Well, we were put off the case. I don't really have to, I have no case. As far as my job is concerned, I have the weekend off until I have to report to Chief on Monday. Although I don't want to just throw in the towel on this, orders are orders. This isn't like the movies. I don't get to say fuck off, throw my gun and badge at him, become some vigilante, save the day and get my job back. I'd rather get my ass thrown in jail than do any of that. But it's also not in my nature to sit still and do nothing. It'll drive me crazy if I just idle about. Besides, there's someone who has to know about this whole Luke Wright thing.
Yeah, I need to go talk to Professor Clark. And there's something else I need to look into.
That other matter she mentioned last night specifically. Things even the news have been blasting out to the general populace lately. Evening, afternoon, morning, all deaths with the same modus, blamed on a single serial killer. Or is it still the case?
Found dead in the early hours of the morning today. The fire was contained within a room and no other tenants were harmed, according to Luxborn police.
We're grasping at straws as far as these murders are concerned. In the first place, I'm not even the one heading this investigation, yet look at me treating it as if it's another high-profile case on my shoulder. How sad is that? Although all three of my friends have mentioned seeing something strange, I don't want to go into that line of thinking for now. Not yet. Not until I've exhausted every logical argument I could throw at it. To be honest though, I don't know how to take all of this anymore. But I've already given Isabel my word. It'd bother me more if I didn't follow up on the promise I made to her. And after Rebecca's claims last night, there won't be enough sarcasm in the world if what my friends have been telling me is true. I can already hear Isabel's laughter, in fact.
Figures. What else can it be?
It's not another case. It's something else. That issue Isabella mentioned yesterday morning. I'm sure you remember, you were there.
Well, at least you're not neglecting all your friends.
Becca, I promised her I'll...
She doesn't wait for me to finish. With a roll of her eyes, she turns around and shuts the door in my face. I have no idea what I've said this time, but you're just a fucking dense ass.
I probably deserve that.
Yep, definitely do. We'll just have to fix this some other time. By then, her temper is sure to have cooled off significantly. Well, she will have a run into the ghost in the library, so we have that to look forward to. Hopefully. And there we have this episode of The Letter, everyone. Ash was pulled off the case and it seems like he's finally getting the full brunt of everything that's been happening. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe so we can grow our channel together. Once again, my name is Nez and thanks for watching. See you all next time. Bye everyone!